Restart India presents Let's Talk Business, a talk show curated and presented by Restart India, an initiative started by Muthoot FinCorp Limited in partnership with INK. Restart India came into being during the initial days of the lockdown with an aim to address the concerns of small businesses. One of the ways we connect with our community of small businesses is through our live events. At Restart India, while we are running on-ground campaigns to support and restart micro and nano businesses, the talk shows and live events are aimed to create a community wherein the advice from one entrepreneur or mentor can help other startups learn, share views, and grow. Our live events also create awareness to enable the community to come together and support small and local businesses. In this new edition of live events, we call Let's Talk Business. It is a conversation between entrepreneurs who run small businesses. We want to hear from them on how they ideated, set up their business, the challenges they faced, and how they have come to be where they are now. Restart India.
Hi everyone, it's the year 2022. Sounds more like 2022, but I don't think it's anything like this. India is seeing a new but a different kind of a wave of budding entrepreneurs and talents emerging in many of its corners. India is looking at many young entrepreneurs who are providing solutions and are utmost problem solvers. We are breaking the old patterns and are creating new ones to follow, be it medical, technology, education, or any field. We are more responsible and we believe in doing good business and doing it by being good. I'm proud to be a part of this next generation that has its mindset and future that looks really so bright. Good evening, everyone. I'm Shraddha Narayanan, Program Manager at Restart India. And I have with me Tina Muthoot, Impact Director for Restart India. Hi, Tina. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Shraddha. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. Why don't you go ahead and introduce our topic for today?
Yeah, great. So our topic for today is responsible business choices. Now, when we think of, say, investments or putting money in somewhere, we're not just going to be looking at, what profit or loss we're making out of it, but looking at it from an angle of sustainability, environment, and most importantly, that the giving back to the society factor that is quite important, and it drives many decisions that are being made right now. There are so many layers to it, and let's get on with our show so we can discuss this in more detail. And tonight we have a lovely guest with us who loves to break the pattern, as the pun goes, and makes fashion choices responsibly. Let me introduce you all to our guest, Gayatri Jolly. Gayatri Jolly is the CEO and founder of Masterji and Daughters Private Limited, India's first all-woman ecosystem for the global apparel industry. Masterji was founded in 2016 and is backed by a New York-based impact investment fund called Acumen Fund. She is a qualified fashion designer from Parsons, New York, and a business graduate from Babson College, Boston. Having worked with companies like Armani and Diane von Furstenberg, she has gained experience in design and management in the fashion industry in New York. She's designed Masterji's breaking patterns pedagogy and is working towards making it an ideological tool to inspire systemic and generational changes. She's driven to democratize the power of making patterns and provide affordable training to individuals who aspire but lack the access to tools to realize their fullest potential. Masterji has partnered with CSR partners like Tata Power, Naira Energy, Sterlite Technologies, Vedanta Group. This list goes on. And to top it off, Gayatri is an INK, a Sonder Connect, Unlimited India, and an Acumen Fellow. Now, that was a very impressive introduction, Gayatri. I was so happy to have you here for this show. Thank you for joining
Welcome,
us.
Gayatri.
Thanks, Tina. Thanks, Shraddha. That was a really generous introduction. Thank you.
And it's really lovely to have you here. So, Gayatri, I think we have a lot to cover. So, let's just get started. I know we are all waiting to hear a lot from you. So, this live show is divided into 5 segments. We're going to start with our first segment, which is called the what, when, why factor, which is the rationale behind everything a business does. So these factors are the foundation or the building blocks that decide the success of any enterprise, may it be small or large. Our idea through this show is to inspire like-minded business owners and to be entrepreneurs. And this conversation, I'm sure, is going to inspire many such people. So, Gayatri, I have to start with this question. As Tina just mentioned, your amazing resume. You've worked with so many fashion houses in New York, from New York to India. What were your initial blueprints when you planned Masterji?
So the initial period was a lot of um, questioning and becoming comfortable with the question that I was about to build a business on. So it was about a year when I had first moved back from New York to Delhi, and that entire year comprised of a lot of questioning and wondering that here is a social issue that we know exists, which is the systemic exclusion of women from the role of the pattern maker. There's no doubt that this is a problem, and there's no doubt that we need to solve this. But does it really make sense to build a business around this problem? Because in typical business speak, we say that if you're solving 100% of the problem for even a small number of people, you've captured that entire target audience. But when the same doesn't always apply to social issues, because you need to find a way for the money to flow, for someone to feel that some product or service is of value to pay for it. So the problem was very clear when I moved, that I had worked with so many pattern makers that were women in New York. I had amazing experiences. Like, there was a time at DVF when I assisted the pattern maker who was making a dress for Michelle Obama. And just to be in the aura of that pattern was incredible for a young person at that point, like myself, who was just entering the industry. So I think the initial blueprints were guided by a lot of enthusiasm that comes with inexperience. You don't know what can go wrong, so you jump right into it. And I think I had that benefit on my side. If I were to start Mastergy today, I would think of 10 things that could go wrong, that have gone wrong. But at that point, I didn't imagine all of that. I was very optimistic, as we all are when we are less experienced.
Nice. Thanks, Gayatri. I think Tina has a question for you now. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Tina.
Yeah, Gayatri, with Masterji, like you said, you created a new line of the Darzi system, the Masterjis who are women. Was it easy for you to get these Masterjis, to give them the opportunities as seamlessly? What were your steps to enable this, and what did you do next?
So I think what happens with our work a lot is that it's not just the bias of the industry that's only trusting men in the role of the pattern maker, but it's also the bias that we have within ourselves as women, which is that we've never seen women in that role. So it becomes difficult to trust women in that role, just because we're so conditioned to see a certain thing only one way. So I think the toughest part has been the two sided bias. One is the bias that the industry carries for generations, that Master G is always a man, and on the other hand, the bias that the women themselves carry to say that, do I have what it takes to be this authority figure in the industry where I can be the pattern maker? So that I would say has been quite a challenge, and we face it even now after many years of being in the business. But I think it's one of those things that doesn't feel like it's something that we work with every single day, and it's challenging, but it's not demoralizing, because we know that every generation sits on the shoulders of the previous generation in terms of any social movement, and our contribution may be only incremental in our lifetimes, but it's important that this work be done since we're already on this path.
So
So I'm
how
sure
open was the sorry, Shraddha,
no, after
like
you.
how open was the mindset shift here, Gayatri? Like, was it easy to break in here?
It wasn't. I'll be honest. It hasn't been, and even now, it's the problem is very much prevalent. So we're looking at a pan India market where in most states across India, women pattern makers don't exist, and this conversation hadn't started until Masterji and Daughters came into the picture. So I would say that it's still very challenging, but the way we are tackling it is by using the breaking patterns pedagogy, which I conceptualized when I first moved back, and which has been honed and further designed and redesigned over the years. And what it basically means is that you take a simple silhouette, a simple skirt, or a simple pair of pants, you teach the student the pattern, which is the ABC, so to speak, and then you teach them how to break it and recreate different designs. And through that, you teach them and you train their minds on how to question existing patterns that exist in their lives or in their societies that they deem as toxic or unacceptable or unjust, and then go out there and change that and redesign it so that you can design your own life. So I think design and pattern making has become a really powerful tool for emancipation of women.
That's really wonderful, Gayatri. And I just wanted to ask you, has it become, I know you're saying that the challenges still exist, and I'm sure they will continue to because it's the entire system that you're trying to change. But as you've seen over the years, has it gotten easier? Do the women who are coming in now see women who have come there before? And does that sort of inspire them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think role models are really important. And we have a lot of role models in our office, at the Master G office. We have role models at the various training centers that we run, where women are looking at the women that came before them already and believing in themselves a little more. And even designers that come to us for outsourcing their production, which is what we uh, use as a tool for students to get industry experience. The designers now come to us because we have female pattern makers, not
Lovely.
because I mean, in the early days, it's really funny. Once we had a customer walk into our office, and it's a hall, and there are lots of tables and women cutting patterns, and they walked in and they're like, "Where's the master G?" And we were like, it's us, like, we're gonna make your patterns. And you could see a little bit of doubt on their face. And after all these years of pushing back on that mindset, I feel like we get inquiries every day for brands that want to build their foundation by getting their patterns made by women.
Oh, that's really inspiring, Gayatri. Tina, I have a spin-off questions for you. We started Restart India almost 1.5 years ago, and it had social impact to its core. So all what we've heard from Gayatri and what she's done, do you see any parallels that you can draw between Restart India and what Gayatri has achieved through Masterji?
I think the initial thought, that you need to get out there and like make a difference with even a simple idea. Small businesses have always existed. We've seen them. We've seen them thrive before the pandemic, but I think because they were the hardest hit, we realized that there is a lot of attention that needs to go to them right now. And as we did our work with them, one thing that we realized is that maybe things were happening earlier for them, for buyers, for the sellers, because okay, we're used to that way of life. Like we can get out, go and buy from these kiranas, the vendors, and all. But if nobody's going out to them, like, are they ready to face the next wave or the next whatever challenge that comes up? Getting used to technology, getting used to changing systems, buyer sentiments. Like, are they ready to face this? I mean, this problem was always prevalent. We just didn't realize it till COVID hit us. One thing that Gayatri said right now, which I can really relate to in Ristandia's case, is how Gayatri broke down this. What do you say? The breaking the pattern pedagogy, like she said, like give them an exercise where you're making a pattern, you see something come out differently, and then how you can make it how you can make the design different in your own terms. So you kind of like speaking the language that they understand. I think that's one thing that we realized when we started working with small businesses, because there's no point in trying to push down digitization to someone who can't even grasp WhatsApp. So you got to speak their language. You got to speak the way they would interact with their customers. Simplify things for them, break it down to them, get it in the content that they can understand in the vernacular. So yeah, I think it comes with its own challenges. It's been a learning for us as well over the last 1.5 years. Yeah.
Thanks, Tina. And I think what you mentioned really ties in the challenges when everyone is trying to have a initiative with social impact at its core. I think it's as good as time to move to the next segment. It's called Snippets. I just want to lay a little brief for it. Whenever anybody starts on a startup journey, it's not just their growth, the founder's growth. That person holds the responsibility of so many families who trust them and their vision, the people who work with them, and every choice, every decision they make not only impacts the company or the founder, but everyone around, everyone who is affected now or whom they choose to affect once it actually comes to life. So through this journey, there are a few decisions which every founder or the proprietor makes, which is tough. Some decisions might be easy, some might even be funny, weird, and you look back and you say, "Oh, okay, I did that." So Gayatri, I really want to come to you. Think for a moment, and could you highlight a few of your choices or stories or decisions and certain steps you've taken along your journey in Mastergy that remains a milestone for the Mastergy team till date?
Um, I would say I'd like to talk about like an idea as opposed to a particular incident.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
I think what has really struck me recently is how protective the team is, how like how they have nurtured the idea with me from the beginning, the people that have been around since the beginning. So any major strategic move that happens now, I have to convince everybody before I make a decision. It's not like she decided and we'll all follow. They're just like, they have so many questions because they're like, it took us so long to stabilize this boat. And we all feel so proud of what we've all built together and all the times we've been through that we want to make sure that we all give you our perspective. You may still make a decision that you think is best, but I think it's a point of it's a milestone when you reach a point in a small team where everyone feels ownership, that the next move doesn't rock the boat and kind of challenge what's been built so far, because there's so much that, like you said, so many families, so many people, so many dreams are dependent on whether the boat remains stable or not. So, and I think it's always a question between stay the same size or grow, because at some point you realize that you can't stay the same size if you want to stay in business. You have to continue to grow. So I think that's definitely a milestone in a new company where you find that the team is starting to feel that ownership.
Oh, that's lovely. Gayatri, do you remember some of your first Master G women who you managed to convince to come on board? Uh, do you remember
Yeah,
them? They must
yeah.
be very special.
A lot of the first batch rejected the idea because they felt that it was too ahead of its time. It couldn't be done. Men are only pattern makers. So most of the first batch rejected the idea. It was very hard to convince the first 20 women to believe in
Wow.
this.
So how many did you have to go through to get to those 20 women?
A lot, a lot. I don't remember the numbers, but
Wow.
there is, I mean, rejection from funders, rejection from customers comes later. First, you get rejected by the very individual that you want to benefit.
Yes.
And then over time you realize, rejection is just a part of the whole cycle. But I mean, eventually, when the idea started to get accepted, and the women who did accept it are the women that run the team now at
Oh,
our
wow.
head office. So they are the first ones who believed in Master G are the ones who train the trainers now, are the ones who design the curriculum now, are the ones that train other women at other centers now. They hold leadership positions on the team because they believed in it when no one else did.
Yeah,
That's
they're the
really
role
lovely.
models. Yeah.
That's just something, isn't it? And Tina, when I just had a deja vu when Gayatri was saying that, the convincing the person who you're trying to impact. I remember going through thousands and thousands of people to get maybe 200 who we can teach how to use WhatsApp so that you can do
Yeah.
your business better. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's so many similarities when you start off to do something. Lovely, Gayatri. I mean, it's really inspiring what you're doing. And we really want to get into more details, dwell into more details of what really is the crux of Mastergy. And it's the Gyan time, which is the next segment, time for some Gyan. This is where the expertise which our panelist is bringing in. And this section, somehow Gayatri's always managed to bring really nice, fresh perspective. And it's always been different with whoever we've hosted on this show. So for you, please share your insights here. When we think of fashion, we think of glamour. But today, the talk is so much about sustainability, which is tough in the fashion world. So, how is it that you try to bring sustainability elements to Mastergy?
I would say that for us, sustainability comes more from a labor perspective, from a labor practices perspective, and what we think of as the future of work in fashion. So we are building an ecosystem which is a pan-India ecosystem where brands that are sustainability focused across the world approach us, and we have done all the groundwork and are currently also doing the groundwork to provide them a way of manufacturing their garments that's going to be decentralized across India through women's groups that we are training and have been training for the past few years in a way that is comfortable, humane, and sustainable for them where they are, as opposed to expecting that women are going to migrate from their village to cities to work in factories the way factories have always existed. We are looking to take the work to where they are, where we're setting up training centers and production centers with our CSR partners who are keen to provide skilling to those students anyway. So for me, I feel what's sustainable is when we can, and especially I think COVID has brought this into focus as to how we were working and what work looked like before the pandemic, as opposed to what format of work is conducive to human life, which is that it doesn't kill you. You can work and have a life, and you can have that balance, and you can still exist. And we saw a major shift in saw major reverse migration right when the first wave
Yeah.
hit, when we saw so many workers and migrants going back to their villages.
Yeah.
And that's when we realized that this way that we were functioning in was never sustainable. So when we have brands approaching us from across the globe, and I don't know how they find us, it's insane. But we have so many brands who call us and they say that we will not start production until you do it for us. That's how we're launching our brand, because this is the only way we want to produce.
Oh, lovely. That's so amazing.
So I
So,
think there's force in small, and we talk about the power of small business, right? Because when 1,000 small businesses say they're only going to do it one way, there's only so much a big business competitor can push back when they're all in the same business.
yeah. So I think this leads to the next one you mentioned about how your training model is. So how's your operating model? How do you balance supply chain, having them work where they are? How do you cater to everyone who's asking you for, your clients? And your workmen or your master Gs are located all over the place. So what is your operating model? Supply chain, how do you get the products and set them up together?
We have two paying customers. One paying customer is a corporate or a philanthropist that wants to pay for our consulting services to set up and run a skilling center. So that's one category of a paying customer. And the second paying customer is a sustainability focused fashion brand that outsources their production to us so that we get their products produced white labeled at our training centers. So um, once we tie up with a CSR partner, the program is implemented by a local trusted NGO in the region where the CSR wants to operate. So, for example, if a company is focused on working in a certain region of Gujarat because either their factory is there or their focus is there, their mandate is that we want to work in this region, we do a survey and we set up and run a training center on their behalf, and we get paid for it. And then when brands start coming in based on geography and based on our proprietary scoring mechanism called G score, we match the brands with the right geography and with the right students so that they can execute this order. So we match it based on various factors so that it's not adding to the cost of commuting, the travel, conveyance, and all of that. And also that it should not have too much of an impact on the environment. So we're not looking at transporting materials and finished product back and forth. So it should be most economical, but also environmentally sustainable.
Great. You already mentioned there are two paying customers. So these are your only revenue generating mediums, or do you have others like you have funds coming in and support which comes in to help your training centers, or these two paying customers are the only revenue model?
So I would say that if you're talking about funds from investors, I don't think we can count that as revenue, but we do have Acumen Fund has funded the business, so that's on the investor side.
Okay.
We don't take grants because we are a company, so we don't work on the grant model. Grants is what we facilitate between the CSR and the NGO. So in order to cover the costs of training, because our students can't afford always the training cost at market rate, corporates subsidize the cost of education. So we would prepare a proposal and a plan, and corporates would disburse the funds to the NGO directly so that the NGO can set up the training center, purchase whatever machinery is required, for which we are the knowledge partner. So the NGO
Okay.
figures out exactly how they need to run the training program based on all the knowledge input that we are giving.
That's lovely. How many women have you managed to train so far? Do you remember any
So
number?
we've enrolled over 2,000 women so far.
Wow,
And we had, of course, some women couldn't complete the program for their own societal and personal reasons, but till date, we've enrolled over 2,000.
that's
How
amazing. And
long
how
do they
many are?
normally take? Yeah. How long do they normally take to complete the training?
They normally take anything between 3 months to 12 months, depending on which course their center has chosen to run with us. So it's a modular course, kind of like think of like a liberal arts education for design, where the first few couple of months are foundation, then there is parts, and then comes the products. So they can stack as many or as little products as they want once they're done with foundation, depending on how much their corporate partner can keep subsidizing for them. So I would say that my goal personally is that my class at Parsons is the level I'm looking at for all of these girls. Like the competition should be of that level, where at a technical level there should be no difference. That's the quality we strive for.
That's excellent. And most of the women who you have enrolled, they go through all the modules, right? Or is there an option for them to just do one or two modules and then just start?
So they do either women's wear or men's wear or home goods, accessories, bags. We have all these different courses, right? So
Yeah.
depending on what their center has chosen for them, because right now we only have a batch model. We haven't yet
Okay.
launched one-on-one learning, which we are working on right now, which is going to be more technology driven. But so
Mhm.
far, because it's been batch driven, because that's the most economical for corporates when they pay for it, they all go through the same course. So if the NGO or the corporate decides that we're going to have a women's wear focused training
Mhm.
program where for 6 months they're going to learn women's wear, so then they learn the products which can be completed in 6 months after completing the foundation.
Oh, that's amazing. Excellent. And so now what is next for Master G? I know you've enrolled 2000 and what you're speaking. So maybe just tell us your plans for this year, maybe, or the next 2 years.
Plans for this year are to expand the curriculum offerings. Obviously, that's an ongoing activity. We're always innovating on the curriculum. Plans for this year are also to build the technology that's going to enable one-on-one learning. So we're working on an infotainment platform that's going to make It's going to be very basic. It's going to be accessible on Android smartphones across the country so that women can learn directly and have a network across the country. And what else? I feel like there's a lot that goes on. So, but these are the two major activities. Yeah.
Thanks, Gayatri. And I have just got that we already have a lot of audience questions coming in
Okay.
just after your Gyan session. So before we head to the next segment, Tina, I have a question for you. Considering we spoke a lot about sustainability and how Master G is coming up now, you belong to the next gen of entrepreneurs, next gen of Muthoot, and you've often used the term in a lot of our meetings also, profit with a purpose. Could you shed some light on the responsible choices that you have made in your businesses?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're predominantly a financial services company. We offer retail financial services to those at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, the way you and I understand financial solutions may be different from how the unbanked might understand. You know, what suits one category, it doesn't necessarily suit the other. So I think even when we start designing solutions, like financial solutions for them, like what are the questions that go through our mind? You know, what are some of the things that even we ask ourselves? Like, are we understanding their affordability? Do they really have a need for the money, or just giving them money? Are we going to push them into a debt trap? Or say, can they repay according to their need? I mean, sorry, according to their cash flow. Like, will they have a cash crunch, or will they have excess idle funds? You got to make sure that they're not in either boat. And are their savings secure? So I mean, this doesn't cover the entire ambit of questions that we ask, like when we come up with certain products or solutions for the bottom of the pyramid when it comes to their money matters. But at least, like, it's the tip of the iceberg. Just as an example, like we keep hearing this. I mean, it's a very, very simple story, but it's usually resounded at every meeting. So when a customer walks into one of our branches, they might come in for a gold loan. So they bring their jewelry, which is a standard pattern, like standard weight, like whatever the weight is. I mean, obviously that can't be divided or broken up over there. So once it's weighed, the person at the counter asks a specific question: how much do you need? How much money do you need? So because according to the jewelry, like according to the weight, you might be eligible for X. It doesn't mean that you need X. You might just need 10% of X or half of X, because we just give you that money. Like when you don't have a need, when you don't foresee a need, you could be building up needs that you probably won't, have an idea of how to repay. So the question is very simple, like how much money do you need? And then we will say, okay, this is what the gold is worth. This is what we can give you, and these are the terms. So the first thing, like even asking a simple question like that, like is part of making a responsible choice when it comes to giving out money. And even with like designing products, say you're thinking about their affordability. Like this segment, say they want to buy products like gold, but they can't buy it because they can't afford to pay for gold at one shot. So can they start paying, say, 500 rupees a month, 100 rupees a month? Now we've even started enabling, I mean, we've started a product where they can pay even 1 rupee at a time. So if they have just 1 rupee, they can start putting money into gold. So it works like a piggy bank. Yeah. So anything when it comes to like planning the product and how it functions, how we interact with them, the kind of education that they get, even by the simple questions that we ask, like all is part of making those responsible business choices.
It's really nice, Tina. Lovely to hear from you. And that simple question changes a lot of things for that person. And just being
they don't
enough
realize it.
What they don't realize it.
Even the person sometimes, like, if this is an SOP, maybe the people who ask, like, they do this, with everyone who walks in, so they don't realize the principle behind asking this, but yeah. it's done for this reason.
Nice. And that actually ties in with Gayatri, what she said, that the way they teach, the pedagogy which they follow is they're doing a lot of things which Gayatri just mentioned right at the start, that it can even impact the way they're living their life. And it really empowers them just by the concept of breaking the patterns. While they're doing it just for their profession, but the profound effect it will have on these women's life is maybe something which we can't even imagine. So let's move on to our next segment. This is a video segment. It's called Let's Watch This One. We showcase the story of a small business, and this time we are showcasing of the initiative which Restart India has come up with. We are tying in two of our initiatives. So can we please watch the video? Jabir, can you pull it up?
ആദ്യമായിട്ടാണ് ഇവിടെ വന്നിട്ട് എക്സിബിഷൻ വന്നിട്ട് സെയിൽ ചെയ്യുന്നു. അപ്പൊ ഇവിടെ കൊണ്ടുവന്ന സാധനം ഇവിടെ സെയിലുണ്ടായിരുന്നു.
എനിക്ക് നല്ലൊരു അനുഭവമായിരുന്നു ഈ എക്സിബിഷൻ.
It's a really good initiative by Restart India, by Muthoot FinCorp and INK.
Tina, coming to you here first. You let everyone know why we have started the Shop Small initiatives and what are the two different things which we are mentioning in the video and why we did that.
Yeah, simple, Shraddha. Like you've always heard this saying, no, if Mohammed doesn't go to the mountain goes to Mohammed. I don't know if you've heard this, but I think since the beginning, like since 2020, we've just been saying, the main issue with small businesses is that they need to get their product to market. And over the last 2 years, ever since we've been studying their products, like seeing it firsthand, I think the biggest pain is that, knowing that buyers aren't seeing these products, they're not getting to buy it, Of course, the pain is that they're not able to sell it, but then the other side, like these products are just not getting to the market. I mean, they're so unique, and it's been a real shame that whole idea of touching and feeling a product and getting to buy it at, say, a bazaar or a hart, that's just not been happening. So I think something that we wanted to do since 2020, which we finally managed to pull off last year during the festival season, Diwali and Christmas. So something that we did in Cochin and Trivandrum with a small crowd, because we just wanted to see, considering restrictions and maybe, we don't want to bring about another wave as well. So yeah, but I think one of the feedback that people gave was that they got to see the traditional products that they hadn't seen for years, like things that existed in their parents' generation. They finally got to see things being made, like the food items or the crafts that these small businesses had been working on. So yeah, I think that's the background for our Shop Small days. And there's one thing that was extremely inspiring, something that one of the women entrepreneurs said. She said that she was able to manage her entire month's sale through that one day of Shop Small, through our Shop Small days. So I think we just need to keep giving them more platforms where they can exhibit their products, they can sell. So take it to more cities, take it to other states as well. Yeah, that's all we're looking forward to.
Yeah, that's our plan. And Gayatri and the audience, just to let you know, she achieved this 1 month sale with just the office space where we tried it out in the Muthoot office. That's it. It was only the Muthoot community and our Restart community which was there. And that's it. And I think one of the items you saw there is adorning my wall here It's just a beautiful piece of art which is from Kerala, which adorns, the elephants which they use for
It's
puja.
beautiful.
And I always like to keep this as a reminder that these small businesses put in so much effort to make this product. And yes, we want these products and many such things across the states to reach as many people as possible. And considering COVID norms, hopefully we are able to do a lot more this year. We are right about on time. I think we will want to have more questions in the Ask Me Anything audiences. Have already started pouring in questions. But before I go to the next segment, I would like to tell the audience, if you have helped a small nano business in your locality to restart, please do record a short video with the small business owner and the small business and post it on social media and tag us using these hashtags: small business, hashtag support local, hashtag shop local, hashtag local business support. We will feature the best videos we receive in our live events. Thank you so much. Now let's move on to the last segment, which is Ask Me Anything. Gayatri, we've already received a lot of questions. So let me start with one, which is from Dhruv Agarwal. He asks, Gayatri, how have you dealt with motivating your team in this sector? What are Master G's current challenges?
So motivating the team is really important, and I feel like it's one of the most important things you can do because it really propels productivity and also, in general, a positive culture in the workplace. And I think your job as a person that's leading the team is to help each individual see their strengths. And there's always like, even for the best employee, there's always like 20% that there's no such thing as a perfect employee. There's always 20% or 30% that you will feel that, I wish they could do this better or that better. But what's important is not to identify that 30%. The point is to look at the 80% and help them see what the positive 80 positive percent is about them and help them see their strengths so that they can capitalize on those. And when you act like a mirror for them, that motivates them because everyone needs like a positive reflection to see the best in themselves. So I think that is a really important thing to motivate people. And as for the current challenges, I would say is just growing and staying stable as you grow, because every time you take a leap forward to grow, you are no longer the size you were and you're not yet the size you're going to be. So you're in the middle, and that
Yeah.
middle place is always uncertain, and you don't always have answers. You're living with a lot of questions. So I think that for any growing business, for any new business, there's that middle path happens very frequently, where you don't know where you're exactly going, but you still have to keep going.
Great. Thanks. Thanks. Hope that answers your question, Dhruv. Gayatri, we've also had a few questions when we announced that you're going to be online, which have come in through our portal, our website. There's a question from Divyanka Chennai. She says, Gayatri, you could have easily started your own line with the conventional Darzi system that already exists. But you chose instead to change the system first and then start your line of work. What is your advice to young entrepreneurs on working at the intersection of business and social impact?
That's a really
Thanks,
interesting
Divyanka. That's a
question.
lovely
Thanks.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. That's a really interesting question. And it's one that always brings me back to this thought that it was never a choice for me, because the choice of designing clothing at that point was not even close to as exciting as what I do now for me. So it never occurred to me that am I doing this or that? Am I sacrificing one thing over another? It was never a choice.
So you've taken a very conscious decision of having social impact at its core.
Yeah, I think making product is a means to an end, and the end is to the emancipation of women and the livelihood generation and creating this ecosystem. So, I mean, we consume so much product anyway. So I feel that creating product as an end didn't excite me as much as using the product as a means to achieving an end that would fuel an entire ecosystem of women and then therefore their future generations. Because I feel that the children that are growing up around these women and that they are raising are just growing up in an environment where they are not receiving the same conditioning that their mothers received. So what we're doing is an intergenerational impact by using product as a means.
That's really lovely. The second part of the question is, if an entrepreneur, I am assuming it is Divyanka, if she is at crossroads, that there is business and then there's social impact, how do you think she should deal with that kind of? I know it was very clear cut for you, but what do you think you can say to help her?
I think it depends on what social issue she's working on. So sometimes there are social issues that can't be monetized. If you're looking at HIV or you're looking at children's education or COVID relief, these are things you can't really monetize. These are very grant-driven nonprofit activities, right? But skilling isn't like that. Skilling is one of the things that you can actually build an ecosystem around and monetize, which is what we've done. So I would actually be curious to know more about what the issue is that she feels passionately about, and then go from there. But if it's something that can be monetized, find who wants to pay for it, and find who you're solving the problem for, and then find a bridge to connect the two. And social businesses take a lot longer, so don't compare yourself to the traditional business metrics for success. Otherwise, you'll constantly feel like you're not doing the best or you're not achieving. So you can't compare yourself to other traditional businesses.
Wow, that's a lovely
Good
answer. Thank you
to-
so much.
Yeah. Good to hear it from you, Gayatri. I mean, like it gives a sense of reassurance, so because you've
Yeah.
gone through it. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Divyanka, I am sure you're happy with this. If you could write to us with your more specific question, maybe we can have it sent to Gayatri for a longer answer. There's another question from Kota, Rajasthan. This is from a Rashmi Desai, and she's a manufacturer. She asks, how do you educate your customers about what you're doing, and how is it that you tell them how different is your product, or why is your product different?
I think what really works in our favor is that we are technically very strong. So any for most customers that come to us, we're speaking exactly their language. And in some cases, we are speaking a language that's even more technical than what they know. So immediately they know that they're in good hands. So it actually doesn't matter. Our product is not different. It's just that it's women. It's the same product. So if anyone comes to us for patents as an order or a production order, it's just and if they never come to the office, they don't know who's making the pattern. So it's actually not different. And if we look at the other side of things, if we look at how our CSR business has been built, I think this format of how we work just didn't exist before. So identifying an NGO partner, identifying a corporate, matching them, or even if they find each other, but us coming in as a knowledge partner, I feel like this way of working in the nonprofit sector didn't really exist in this format. There were other ways in which skilling was taking place, but we have a modular course that we offer. We could have had one university campus, but then Women Pan India couldn't have attended. So we made it such that it's the same quality that you would get at a tier one fashion institute, but it's so decentralized and it's so adaptable to different environments. It's so contextualized to rural and low income areas and the kind of resources they have that I think that is what has really made a difference.
Wow. So, Rashmi, the product is not different. So, the customer who's getting it is not different. But just the way the system has been designed by Gayatri is just hit the root completely. So, she's able to maintain this and deliver high quality product to her customers. All right, we do have time. The next question is from Trishani. She's from Indore. She asks, any words of wisdom to all the women who dream to break patterns in their own body of work? A very general question, so I'll probably have both Gayatri and Tina. Maybe you could just uh, answer what Trishani wants to know.
Gayatri, you want to
Gayatri,
go first?
Do you want to
Yeah.
go for it?
Tina, why don't you maybe?
Okay. Trishani, I think, bid your time when you need to, because you don't get exhausted or overwhelmed by everything that you need to do. If you see a problem, I think these words were said to us by one of our mentors: focus, focus, focus. Like, I remember hearing it in one of our initial meetings. And like, just get started with the work that you want to do, whatever it is, and then improve on it over time. I mean, like, the initial plan that you had for whatever you want to start out with, like, you may not be working on it, the exact same thing right now. Like, there are so many things that we started with when we started Restart India, but the situation changed over the last 1.5 years, like, in terms of what small businesses needed, and the things that we tried with them, what clicked, and what we had to evolve from, what is useful to them now. So at that time, we remember, like, we made all these plans which we discussed with our mentors, partners. Like, this is what we want to do. Like, we want to educate, say, 2 million small businesses out there. Like, I mean, there's a lot that you want to do, but when you get out to doing it, you will actually start learning so much about the need that you're trying to solve, the problem that you're trying to solve, the need that you're trying to address, and the best way that you can go about doing it. So I think, find the small issue, focus on it, get started, and then see where it goes from there. That is the simplest way of putting it.
I'd like to add one more thing to that. I'd like to think of it like a cocoon and a butterfly, and the breaking of a pattern being like something that you have to do and not something that you choose to do because there's no other choice. Because if you were choosing to live in the cocoon, you won't live beyond a point. So if you really want to thrive and not just exist, you kind of have to break that pattern. Otherwise, you'll continue to live your life in a way that's not at peace with your inner core, and it'll be a life that's defined by everyone else around you.
Yeah.
Beautifully put, Gayatri, Tina. So, Trishani, yes, they are pearls of wisdom for you. Just go out there and just get started in your body of work and take inspiration from the two lovely women we have here. The next question is from Reva Male, Pune. This question is to you, Gayatri. She says, in the fashion ecosystem, a lot of people want to start their own venture and their own line of work. As a founder, what factors would you recommend one should keep in mind before starting their venture?
I would say work experience. I think as many years as you can work elsewhere, you should do that because it teaches you a lot. Long enough that you get experience, not long enough that you get jaded and don't ever start. But definitely, work experience helps.
Lovely. I think this is very different from what we've heard a lot of other entrepreneurs. Many of them do just start, but even I have felt all the startup entrepreneurs that I have met, that many people who work in the line of business that they want to start, they gain some experience. And like you said, not long enough to get jaded. That's a very, very lovely statement you used, Gayatri. Long enough to learn what you need to, but not too much that you never start what you
Yeah,
wanted
I
to do.
feel like I got lucky
I'll add
with just
something.
thought.
Oh, yeah, after Gayatri's done. I'll add something after Gayatri's done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Go ahead.
looking back, I would say I just got lucky. There was no plan. Like looking forward, it's not really a plan. You just do what's right at the moment. But looking back, I feel like I had that sweet spot of working long enough that I learned and then not feeling, and I couldn't imagine everything that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Lovely. Tina, you were saying.
No, I was just going to say, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. Your own venture means, like, you're going to have to get out and, like, really get your hands
Absolutely.
dirty. Because you cannot think that, somebody else is going to do it for you. Because if you're the one, like, calling the shots, sometimes you're just going to have to be the one in the line of fire. So, yeah, I think, like, that's been a learning for us as well, even with getting
Yeah.
Restart India up and running.
Yeah.
Always. That's so true. Yeah.
All right. We'll move to, I think, final. Oh, we have few more questions. Let's see how many we can get done. So this, I think, is a discussion which we can have. There's someone called Apurva Pillai from Lucknow who's asking the current generation or the Generation Z is moving towards minimalism. So her question is very general. She just asked, do you believe in it and what's your opinion about it?
This is for any one of us?
Yes, yes, please. It's very general question. So Gayatri, I'll have you weigh in on it first.
Minimalism, I think Gayatri should go first. It sounds more like fashion and design.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, the assumption here is that minimalism is a whole lifestyle. We're not limiting it to fashion, because we're not talking about minimalism as a fashion trend. We're talking about minimalism as a lifestyle choice and a way of thinking. So, going back to Tina's example of how much do you need, as opposed to what do you imagine your needs to be, what is the messaging that the media is giving you, what is the consumerist driven messaging delivering to you, and if you can cut out that noise and really go back to the bare bones and basics of what you really need, whether it's thoughts, whether it's information, whether it's what you put in your mind, what you put in your body, what you wear, when you feel at peace with the bare basics, that is, I think, minimalism as a lifestyle. And you know how this, and if I were to contextualize it in fashion, I would say the most sustainable garment is the one that's already in your closet. So that is minimalism, to not accumulate more if you don't need it. Thoughts, food, clothes, whatever.
Anything. Lovely. Tina, you had something to add on?
And I think it's good to learn this from a fashion angle. But yeah, Gayatri's like parallel is good enough here.
Yeah. So Apurva, I think yes, minimalism. So you specifically asked, do we believe in it? I don't think belief has or an opinion can really justify what minimalism is. It is a lifestyle choice, like Gayatri said. If you're content and if you're happy with the number of clothes in your cupboard or the food habits that you have right now, I think you are following minimalism. All
And I think it's also like we put a lot of pressure to be all of one thing. And, you know, you don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be minimalistic. And then
Correct.
100% of your life becomes minimalistic, because you may do one thing which is not impacting the environment, and then you're still, you know, using something else that is, yeah.
Yes.
So the point is also that it's incremental.
Yeah. Lovely. Okay. There is, I think we can take one last question from Aditya. He's from Banaras. He says, do you design any clothes that can be used for various purposes and ways?
I did design a jumpsuit for someone with cerebral palsy, and it was something that came apart at the bottom. So it was cut diagonally as opposed to, so all your pants are cut straight at the bottom. The leg opening is straight, so your leg goes right in. But for someone who doesn't wear pants the way someone with legs that are not from, don't have an issue like that, that they wear pants very differently. So you can always, once your fundamentals are clear, you can design for any need. You just have to be able to put yourself in the shoes of the consumer or the person who's using that product. So to answer your question, when the need arises, we are totally able to design products like that.
So do you have any other example, Gayatri? I found this very interesting. Do you have any other example where you've designed for maybe something which is not the norm?
So I designed costumes for performing artists and singers. So so there was this one artist who was really energetic on stage. So her tops wouldn't always stay in the place where they should. So I had to design undergarments which were matching to the main garment, so that even if the clothes were not in place, it looked like a part of the same garment. And it needed to be reinforced because it was someone who was like really like the seams had to be reinforced twice of what they regularly are for us who just wear regular clothes. So the construction of those garments was really technical, more than what you would usually do. And it was made for someone who's literally just operating at twice the energy on stage. So costume design really fascinates me. It's another use case of like using technical pattern making in a way that's that meets the needs of a customer.
Lovely. Thank you. I think we're just running out of time, and we've had lovely audience questions as well. So I'll like both
Amazing.
of you to we like
Yeah.
both of you to weigh in on some concluding remarks, maybe a minute each. Gayatri, you, then maybe Tina can close.
It's really been a pleasure talking to you, Tina and Shraddha, and thanks to the audience for being such a great audience and for bringing in all these thought-provoking questions that I will continue to think about later. Thank you for giving me so much food for thought. And I wish all the small businesses listening to this right now all the very best. And I know it's hard, and I know every single day is hard. And I just wish you a lot of energy and a lot of motivation to keep going as long as it makes you happy.
Thanks, Gayatri. Tina, any words from you before we close?
Yeah, I think like Masterji itself broke a pattern in my mind. I mentioned this yesterday because I mean where I come from in Kerala, we see women in tailoring, maybe not specifically in pattern making or cutting, but women tailors are prevalent here. So this problem, I didn't know. I mean, I could imagine it, but I didn't know that it was so harsh out there outside of the state. So I hope we've also been able to sensitize people through this session of responsible business choices that such an issue exists, and that there is work being done to address this problem as well. So it's been great listening to your story, Gayatri.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tina. Gayatri, you told us you have 2,000 people enrolled. I hope that number doubles because I think it's the need of the hour. And the more women you touch, the more they get empowered and the more lives and families are getting changed. So thank you so much, Gayatri. It's been lovely having you.
Thanks
And
for having
we hope
me.
we work
Tina.
together and restart India because a lot of our thought process align as well.
Yes, we
Thank you
must.
so
That would be
much.
lovely. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gayatri. Thanks,
Thank
Tina.
you.
Thank you, lovely audience. I hope all your questions were answered. And we'll see you again in a month or so with our next live event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.